All right, we are live on YouTube, and you are watching and listening to the SFF News and Interviews podcast. This podcast is for you creators who also love SFF. I'm your host, Heather Dewey Pettit, and I'm an author, editor, and artist. My tagline is, what ties all these together is my love of fantasy and science fiction. I have a passion for helping others achieve great writing. Moving forward with this project is pretty important to me, as I aim to support authors and other creatives by providing information on the field of publishing and related topics, as well as providing services, but more on that later. Because today I have my second round of guests, who are, in alphabetical order, author JB Caine and Elizabeth Schechter. So if you guys just want to say super quick hi.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to all you who may be watching, and I'm thrilled to be here tonight.
Good evening to all our imaginary friends who live in the box.
Love it, love it. Okay, so the first aspect of the show is the news portion, and so we'll discuss one, cool markets that fall under the speculative fiction umbrella, like writing contests and calls for submission, and two, events like book festivals and related cons, and books published this month by SFF authors, as well as relevant craft books as they may apply. Okay. Okay. So this week, I found a couple of really cool things, and one of those is as far as some new releases. Those who follow Seanan Maguire, she has two new books out, the 9th and the 10th, in her October Daye series. 9 is Red Rose Chain, and the second is Once Broken Faith. So if anybody follows Seanan Maguire, she has some really, really cool series. And one moment, I will find my other thing. Okay. Let's see, 1 second. Just finding my source here. Okay, so the other ones I saw that sounded really interesting. One new release under DAW Books is called Love Galaxy by Sierra Branhan, a romantic science fiction thriller. It says, sexy, snarky, and revolutionary. Excuse me. This fast-paced thrill ride, will hook lovers of reality TV, fans of thoughtful sci-fi, and anyone who lives for drama. I thought that was it sounded very original to me. And the other one that that I got, that was part of that email, let's just say, is called Direct Descendant. And so and that book is by Tanya Huff, and it's described as cozy horror rom-com. And so that is essentially, it's now in paperback. So it says, this Aurora Award finalist for Best Novel is set in modern-day Toronto and features phenomenal characters, fantastic writing, and a queer romance. A perfect balance of dark and delightful. And it's got a really interesting cover. Because you see a bakery, and then there's something lurking in the shadows. I thought that was really interesting. Let's see. And I will be talking to my guests about, their news, publishing news. I know both of you have some newer titles. Okay. Okay. Moment. Let's see. Oh, yes. Okay, so one item, and I believe I mentioned it last time, is Uncertain Stories. Their deadline is Friday, the 29th of May. Let me make sure everything's going on the stream end. It's called Uncertain Stories, and they're open for short story submissions. Deadline is Friday the 29th of May. And let's see. It says, on the Uncertain Stories side, we're looking for stories with a supernatural or speculative edge. The kind of stories that feature in our first anthology, Broken Ground. For the fiction desk, we're looking for stories in the same range of styles and genres featured in TFD's anthologies. In both cases, stories should be previously unpublished and from 1,000 to 15,000 words in length. Again, I will be putting links in the description. Let's see. Pardon, I'm looking for something. And I'm hoping everybody can see me and hear me all right. Okay, looks like everybody is doing pretty well. Hello to anybody watching live. Hi, how are you doing? We will be talking about the subject of immersion, reader immersion, and how to achieve that in your writing. And so we will be covering that momentarily. So I kind of lost my particular thing I was looking for. So that's okay. We will be moving on because I wanted to talk about that. But before we do that, why don't we go ahead and introduce ourselves officially? And I have already done so. So who wants to go first?
Stick with the alphabetical.
Okay, works for me. Works for me. So my name is JB Caine. I am an author. Basically, if it's magical, I'll write it. So anything from high fantasy to horror. I spend a lot of time in the urban fantasy space. Do some epic fantasy as well. Paranormal. Like I said, I do dip my toe into folk horror and even horror comedy now and then. So I am also a huge fan of the Necronomicon convention. I've met both of you there, so I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again this year.
Same.
And I am Elizabeth Schechter, and I write speculative romance with my own personal Scoville scale. My books run from steamy to scorching, and it's everything under the speculative romance umbrella because I get bored very easily. So I'll finish something and then write something completely different.
As you should. As you should.
I have the
Also
attention
agree.
span of a marmot.
I just have too many interests, so that's why I can't stick to one magical genre. I know that I would be a nightmare for a trad publisher because I will not stay in a lane. I will not do it. I refuse.
Sounds like we're all very much alike. Let's just say. Yeah, that's sort of me as well. I am a writer as well, like I mentioned earlier. So I have written some some fiction, some fantasy. I had an idea for a sci-fi, which I'm going to go back to eventually. And I also have a nonfiction project that's geared towards writers. It was supposed to be sort of a magnet, sort of a client magnet. We might have lost Jen. I don't quite see her at the moment.
I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, okay. Maybe I just need to scroll.
Oh, Liz and I just shifted positions on the screen.
Yeah, I think I did that. I'm sorry.
It's like a magic show. I like it.
Apologies for my. I'm sorry. I'm working with some brand new tech right now, so I might need butterfingers. But anyway, yes, I have lots of projects myself. So eventually I'll get back to my novel. This summer is my goal. Let's publish the thing and just get rid of that, and then I'll go back to my novel. Anyway, so distraction is my life. Awesome. Anyway, so reader immersion, guys. Okay, so I have had this subject on the brain for literally months, probably since at least since February, but maybe since January. Anyway, so this is something that every author should aspire to. Am I right?
I mean, certainly I would agree that that's definitely the goal. With reader immersion, you are looking to walk that line between having somebody interested in the story and having somebody lost inside the story. And I think being able to cross that line into the realm where they actually forget that they're reading and are more experiencing the story is definitely the goal of where you want to go.
Yeah, that's the ultimate goal, right? Is that super deep, completely forget what you look up and it's 4 hours later.
Yeah,
kind of deal. That would be the ultimate for me. I love that experience.
Be literal, fall into the book.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
But at the minimum, it should be keep the reader's attention.
Sure.
And that's always the bare minimum, because if you don't keep the reader's attention, why are they reading your book?
They will.
We want to hook them in, and then we want them to stay.
Exactly. They will stop reading, which is absolutely what you don't want in whether or not you're a professional writer, that is like not what you want, because it will, say for ebooks, that shows up, right? And then people will just what is it, DNF it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's many levels to reader immersion, right? I mean, obviously you have to have a good story, and as Liz said, that's the bare minimum. You want to have enough of an interesting story to hook them. But then there's all these techniques that you can use as a writer to take them from reading and enjoying your story to being part of the story, almost like a spectator in your world. And I think that's definitely where we want to go. And there are so many things that can feed into that. There's the voice in your writing. There's, the being able to world build without overloading them and info dumping. There's, creating settings that are rich without over describing and taking them out of the story. And I think that's always the challenge, right? Is the, how far do I go before, my descriptions or my world building might risk taking the character or the reader out of the story. They're focusing on the words instead of just being part of the world.
Agreed.
It's how much is too much, and when do you cross over from immersion into oversharing?
Right. The dreaded info dump.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I particularly love the Honor Harrington books, but he very easily shifts from immersion into I did not need to know this right now.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
In the middle of a pitched battle in space, and suddenly we have 20 pages on hyperdrive.
Right.
Not what I was here for.
Right.
Like Tolkien in space.
Oh my gosh, I read one of those and I was like, I didn't finish it because why do I need 3 pages on how this computer works?
Well, I think I've always subscribed to sort of Edgar Allan Poe's philosophy of if the information doesn't somehow lead you to the conclusion of the story, it's probably not necessary. So, do you really need to know how tall somebody is? Well, not if it's not going to be a plot point later. It might not be relevant. Those kinds of things. And figuring out what details matter and what don't. When is it sometimes appropriate to tell versus show? You don't have to, someone asks the time, you don't have to build them a clock.
Right. Love that. I do believe I've heard that before.
I didn't originate it. I'm not that clever. That's
so yeah, when on the macro level, I guess it would be the world building and all of that. That's an aspect, of course, like one of you said earlier, I forgot who it was. And then and then things like voice, things in the narration, whether it's in the narration and or in the dialogue. Do you guys want to talk about voice and dialogue?
You want to field that one, Liz? Because I'll talk forever. I got too much to say about everything.
Yeah, same.
Dialogue, especially for me, it has to be natural. There has to be a proper cadence and rhythm to it, and it has to fit the character. You can't have a street rat. Thinking of one of the characters from one of my books, he's a former thief, just recently adopted, just recently became a person, as he puts it. He's not going to be spouting lyric poetry. He's very rough around the edges, and his language and his dialogue reflects that. So making sure that the dialogue patterns and the dialects match the backgrounds
Mm-hmm.
are I think a part of that. I mean, the reader voice, the writer voice, the authorial voice, that's going to be consistent, across the board. You've got to have a good authorial voice. I have people who tell me that, I could tell you wrote that because I can hear you saying it. Which gets really interesting in the spicier books that I've written.
Yeah, that wouldn't be awkward at all for someone.
No, not at all. But it was a lot of fun when my sister told me that.
Yeah, I'll bet. My poor sister, I couldn't put her through something like that.
I didn't know she was reading it until reading one of my books until she texted me like 2 days after one book came out on Kindle Unlimited, and she texted me. She's like, "When's the next one coming out?" I was like, "You read it?"
That's a good sign. It's a good sign. That's always the question you want to hear. But just to springboard off of what you said, Liz, I think that not only dialect and making sure you have authentic dialogue that fits the character, I think that's really, really important. And when I'm wearing my editor hat, because I edit as well, I think it's really important for an author to have fluidity in the narrative voice, not just in the dialogue. So yes, the dialogue needs to be consistent with the character and consistent throughout the book. So you can't have somebody randomly change their voice as a character. But I think that the narrative voice as well needs to be fluid, and it needs to be consistent. And so when someone's writing high fantasy, for example, a lot of times that narrator voice is slightly elevated from regular speech, and it doesn't sound sort of like modern speech a lot of the time. And that's something that, because people don't speak that way. If someone's choosing to write with that narrative voice as an editor, that's something I really have to keep a close eye on, because as soon as they it's almost like breaking the fourth wall, right? All of a sudden they start speaking with sort of a modern cadence or modern, phraseology, or even modern syntax.
Or slang. That's the one that really knocks me out, is modern slang in historical pieces.
Yeah. And that can pull somebody right out of a story. And I think it's the most dangerous in high fantasy, because in high fantasy, it's so easy for me. This is maybe just a little peccadillo of mine, but when people are writing in a high fantasy world that is not Earth and does not exist in this universe that we exist in, and then they make biblical references or references to or Earth mythology, that's something that, as an editor, I'm always on the lookout for. It's like, well, you probably wouldn't say, Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ doesn't exist in your world. So that's not an expletive someone would use.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, as long as there's a concept of hell or damning, it might work, but you got to lay that kind of thing out. Yeah.
Yeah. That has to be like explicit in the world building. It's like there is a concept of damnation.
Correct.
I'm reminded of Patrick Rothfuss went through The Name of the Wind and removed every instance of the word okay. Because he felt it was too modern, and
That's fair.
It didn't fit the world that he created.
I think that's it. The average reader would not necessarily catch that, I don't think, but there are readers who would. There are readers who would be picky enough to go, wait, what are you saying, using this phrase that comes from, talking over radios? Like, why would you use that term? So
yeah. And a lot of these things, all of us who have done editing have seen before, and it definitely will pull you out of reading. Excuse me, I have a hair in my eye and I can't get rid of it. So yeah,
long hair.
Sorry, I'm take my glasses off. But And then this can also be as big as world building and can dwindle down, not dwindle down, but but become more micro as opposed to macro, right? Because you can also talk about things, very specific details, or details of the setting, things that a character would notice, and why are they noticing this little thing that doesn't matter to the plot, and things of that nature.
Well, I think that's a really good point, Heather, because you want the readers to discover the world rather than you explaining it. And the way to do that, as you were pointing out, is to have the characters as a gateway. So if a character would organically notice something, that's a good excuse to explain that thing. So if they're noticing a signpost, or even the flora or fauna where they happen to be walking, if it's going to be somehow relevant, or if it's triggers a memory or something like that helps create your universe, you can definitely world build while simultaneously making it relevant to the emotional beats within the characters, rather than, as we said before, just info dumping, because you got to maintain that balance between the richness of your world and the actual readability.
As you know, Bob.
Oh, that kind of info dumping.
Oh, I used to do a lot of contest reading, and there was one book that I was reading for contest where the entire first chapter was, as you know, Bob, where one character is explaining to the other character everything that happened in the previous book. And then I went and I looked at the previous book, and he was explaining everything that happened in the previous book to the character that it happened to. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Wow.
That's like at the beginning of a TV show when it says previously on the X-Files or whatever. Just you didn't see this episode.
Oh my gosh.
I couldn't.
And as far as that description stuff goes too, I think it's also, as a writer, it's really important. People have a tendency to have an over-reliance on sight as a sensory input, and I think it's really important to balance those. I mean, sight is still probably going to be the primary, but it is important to work those other ones in to create dimension to the world that you're creating, I think.
Yes, I would agree with that.
When you take that element out, because sight is the default. I wrote a blind character. He loses his sight in like chapter 4. And the rest of the book, for him, everything is oral. It's all sound and smell and occasionally taste.
Awesome.
Because and juggling that in how the rest of the world worked around him was an interesting experiment.
That sounds fascinating. But I was
I think that. Go ahead, Heather.
Oh, I started to say earlier, interrupting. Apologies. That I've, and this happens to a lot of people. I wanted to say, including myself. And somebody said that they needed more description of whatever it was. I was mortified. So it happens to a lot of people,
but they also
sometimes you just forget.
Also a certain balance that you have to reach too. Like trust the reader to figure out certain details. You don't have to. You don't have to. Some people really like having every detail because they have difficulties with maybe visualization or things like that. But by and large, certain things you can just trust the readers to find on their own.
That is a very good point.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I completely agree.
You have to give them some leeway in explanation. It's okay, let them build the world based on what you've got there. And that actually helps with the immersion.
Absolutely.
Because if they're creating around your framework, they're personalizing it, which means they're internalizing it.
Yeah, which goes back to that whole idea of, what details are emotional beats that are absolutely necessary. Betsy, you're absolutely right. The writer starts the story and the reader finishes it. I love that. That's a good quote. Write that down. Let's use that on the podcast. But
scribbling.
Betsy's one of my podcast partners because we have a podcast as well.
So she's
you guys know Betsy. She'll be at Necro this year as well. She was there last year with me too. And we'll also have our third podcast buddy, Jenny Simard-LeBranch, will hopefully be joining us this year. She's planning on it, and we're hoping all three of us can make it. But yeah, you definitely have to kind of walk that line because when you give too much detail, you're also changing the pacing of the story, and that will pull the reader out just as quickly as them becoming hyper focused on something that actually isn't all that important. Those emotional beats, like, you need to maybe give them the details they're absolutely necessary to paint a picture that's going to be really relevant later on, certain details that need to be a certain way. But a lot of times the details are very fluid. I mean, not to necessarily use this as the best example in the world, but look at the Percy Jackson stories as they've been adapted to various TV and film. The characters don't look the same in any of the film, like the characters in the book versus the characters in both iterations of the film/television show. They don't look the same, and it doesn't matter. It absolutely makes no difference. What matters are the emotional beats of the characters. So even things as as noticeable as hair color, eye color, skin color, those things are different in the different film versions, and it doesn't hurt it a bit unless someone's an absolute purist. But whether Annabelle Chase is blonde-haired, blue-eyed, or whether she is a beautiful girl of African descent, it doesn't matter. Absolutely doesn't matter. Because what matters is her character, not her physical appearance.
Agreed. And is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about regarding this subject? But I know that obviously, we could talk for days.
Well, I have a question for you guys. So because you are both not only writers and readers, but editors as well. So when you are reading something, what breaks your immersion faster than anything else? Ooh, I threw you a hard one. I didn't think that was going to be a hard one. That's
irregularities of character. That's not something this person said.
Historical inaccuracies.
Well,
drive me straight up a tree.
Oh, yeah. But what I meant was, it's like the person didn't say it in this way 2 chapters ago.
Okay, so
they didn't talk in this way. They didn't phrase things in a certain manner.
So voice discrepancies really pull you out of the story. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Voice discrepancies, research failure.
Okay. So if you notice something that they missed in their research, okay.
Or something that is just complete. The example I usually give for this is it was a romance novel. Again, I was reading for contest, and the heroine walks out onto the balcony of her penthouse in New York, and in Manhattan, and the description is, and she looked out at the pitch black city, and I threw the book across the room.
Yeah,
I grew up in Manhattan.
I was like, there's nothing pitch black in New York City except the inside of a closet.
The city has only ever been pitch black twice in my lifetime, and at both times it involved total blackouts.
Yeah.
Right. For me, it's voice is definitely a big one, like you, Heather. But for me, it's the narrative voice. If the narrative voice is if they overuse the same phrases repeatedly,
the big one for me.
That's one that bugs me. Or if they're doing a lot of description that I, as a reader, because I've read so many books now, it's like when you read a lot of books, you kind of know this detail is going to be important later or this isn't. So if someone spends an inordinate amount of time describing, this, golden box that's in this room, and then that box is never referred to again, that kind of stuff makes me really upset from a reader perspective, because that's like making a promise and then not delivering on it. So
gun.
Yeah,
so much.
Exactly like that. Yes, exactly. And so that kind of thing just really when there's a lot of that where they're giving a lot of details about things that I know are not going to be important later, because there's just no way that these things could be important later. And it's just that they want me to be able, they don't trust me to picture their scene. So they're over describing or either a person or a setting. And that really drives me bonkers.
There were a couple things, but one thing that pulled me out when I was recently doing some editing was a character who had just lost everything. It was a male character, but not that that's the type of character who would be like this, but there was no display of emotion. And there were things that were mentioned that I kept asking the author about it, and he said, well, those things don't really matter. So I'm like, you spend a lot of time describing these things.
Yeah, exactly.
and then throwing them away. He wasn't like showing any emotion in throwing them away, even though they identified him in a particular way. Let's just say.
I'm actually glad you brought that up, because this is something that actually is a pet peeve of mine. I don't know if it's technically an immersion thing, although it is an immersion killer for me. And that's when something is super MacGuffin-y in a story. So when something happens that is purely because the author needs for it to happen, not because they've built it up and created a scenario where it would happen organically. So it just kind of comes out of nowhere. Kind of like, and then a little magic happened, and here was the solution. So that kind of a MacGuffin thing really will pull me out of a story quickly. Like, if a character has no reason to be aggressive or mean or nasty, but they just need there to be conflict, so they just randomly make a character act a certain way, but that character's never been that way before. So you're like, but why though? And that will take me out real quick. Yeah. That's actually my biggest pet peeve in writing. The biggest one I've got. So, and unfortunately I taught high school creative writing, and so I got a lot of that.
Sorry, but that explains it.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, emotion, that's big on my list. As well.
Do you find that you're... Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, do you find that your beta readers for your books are really good immersion testers? Do they tend to be really good about checking you on that, or will they call you out on that? That's a tough job for a beta reader to do.
I've been on the beta reader side, but go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go.
My regular beta readers, I usually know how well I've accomplished the immersion by how quickly they get back to me. Because if they have fallen in the book and read it all in one shot, I did it right.
Mhm.
But if it takes them a few days, a week, or if I don't hear anything, I need to tweak something because I did not grab them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then it's the, okay, where did I lose you?
Mm-hmm.
Because if they can pinpoint where I lost them, I know that's, starting probably about a chapter before that is where I need to fix. To
All right, so
build up to.
Right.
can I throw you guys an unpopular opinion immersion question?
Absolutely.
Can beautifully written prose actually be an immersion killer?
That's it's a fine line in a way, but what is it? Purple prose? That
Yeah.
can pull me out.
I don't know if
Yeah.
purple prose would count as
A
beautifully
little bit.
written prose. I mean, there are some points when I've got a
If
book
it's
that is beautifully written that I will have to put it down and sit there and just have to deal with the extreme word envy. Because
Right.
damn!
Yeah.
But then I'll dive right back in. So I'm not sure if that's breaking immersion or if that's just extreme appreciation.
Yeah. I guess it depends on what
Yeah.
your goal is, right? If your goal is you want them so lost that they don't notice the words,
Mm-hmm.
but if
Yes.
if they are focusing on the words, even if it's for a good reason, I don't know. I think like you said, Heather, it's a very, very fine line to walk.
Yeah, yes, it is. I mean,
Especially
I've
with
read a lot
modern
of things
readers.
as in critique groups, and I've seen a lot of that, and it would lose me. It would
Mm-hmm.
lose me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think, and again, this goes back to my PTSD from being a creative writing teacher. But I think sometimes writers, especially if they are brilliant as people, have a tendency to want to show off in their narration and show off their wordsmithy. And sometimes they're so wrapped up in their own words that they forget their story. I think that's where the line gets crossed, to your point, Heather, like that you got to toe that line but not cross it.
Right.
Because when the words are just coming out for you, and they're maybe just show offy, maybe they don't
Yeah.
maybe they don't serve a purpose other than just being pretty, like Fabio.
Mm. I can't say that I've seen a lot of beautifully written prose where that beautifully written prose didn't serve a purpose. And I'm thinking in particular of The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern,
Mm-hmm.
which is beautifully written, lyric prose, and it was her first book.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh god damn.
Yeah, I feel that way about Elizabeth Kostova is very much that way for me. She wrote The Historian and oh gosh, what was she wrote another one that was set in Bulgaria, and all of a sudden I can't remember the name of it. City of Lost Dreams. Not definitely not so much in the science fiction fantasy space, but her prose is heartbreakingly beautiful. Like you said, Liz, to the point where sometimes I just have to set it down for a minute and absorb it and kind of sit with it for a while before I can go back to the book. So that's a case where it doesn't distract from the immersion for me because I'm in it, but I'm so heavy with it that I do have to set it aside for a while.
It's like having a rich dessert and you
Yes.
have to go slow
Right.
and really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's to the point where I have her next book. I have The Starless Sea. I'm afraid to start it
Mm-hmm.
because I'm afraid it's not going to live up to The Night Circus.
Okay, so I haven't read The Night Circus, but I've read a portion of that, The Starless Sea. I have it. I don't know where I found it. Probably a library bookshop, you know. And I was just, oh, I'm so sorry. Things going off. I was just floored, but I had to do what you did. I had to just step away. I had to step away a few times. I was like, no, I'm going to take a break from this. And then I got distracted into something else. But wow.
I had much that same
visuals.
reaction with Name of the Wind. Especially the beginning parts when Kvothe is still young and he's still he's still on the road with his parents. Because some of the descriptions of his life on, as a traveler, were just so beautifully lyric. And I'm not sure if that was because of the prose or because of the narrator, because I was listening to the audiobook.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
But, I think too, that having been said, simple prose can be just as immersive. And I'm thinking of, specifically Piers Anthony's Incarnations of Immortality series, which is probably one of my favorite book series of all time. Is so, it's very, at least for the time, granted it's, 40 years old, some of it, but, very, modern day prose, not overly complex sentence structure. The syntax and everything is relatively simple and accessible, but the world and the characters are so engaging, and any details that are in there are there for a purpose. And that's a case where even prose that's not complex can be so engaging. And there's a bunch of Haley Edwards writes that way, where I literally forget I'm reading a book. I just feel like I'm seeing it all happen. Tara Lush is that way for me too. I just kind of forget I'm reading, and I'm just watching this happen to the characters, even though it's not complex prose.
Trying to think who else. You occasionally do get that. You find that in some YA. And I am a huge Tamora Pierce fangirl, so The Song of the Lioness, Protector of the Small, any of the Tortall books you have the wonderful characters and the rich world, and it's one of my comfort reads because I know I can fall into that book and everything will be all right at the end, and and it's something that I will pick up when I'm too tired to tackle a new book.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's why I find myself reading cozies a bit lately too. Just for that reason, just because it's like it is so kind of comforting that you can kind of just be part of the world and know nothing bad is gonna
Yeah.
that's not always what I want. Sometimes I want the drama and the the thriller nature. I want my adrenaline pumping, but sometimes my adrenaline is already pumping enough in the real life, and I just want a warm blanket of a book.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. I have been the same way lately. I just read finally the first of a series written by my friend Carol Perry, and really, really good. I highly recommend her. I'm trying to think of the name of the entirety of the series, but the first one is called Caught Dead-Handed, and really good. Recommend. Cozy mystery for sure. It's set in Salem, Massachusetts. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I
There were a
just did
couple of
my
things
first
I was
cozy, and
gonna
I
say
didn't know I
earlier,
was
but I
doing a cozy
completely
when I
forgotten.
started it. It's like I finished it and was told, "Oh, you wrote a cozy." I did. Okay.
Yeah, we talked about emotion, talked about voice and dialogue, details, sensory details, lots of things. Um, also, we might have talked a little bit about character.
I have one we haven't talked about. If you want
Okay.
to throw something out there that could have an effect on reader immersion, and that's the cognitive load of what they're reading. So, if there are too many names, for example,
Okay.
or too many places that I have to then remember, like if it becomes very info dumpy. I think, I think high fantasy is the biggest danger in this. If you're doing a lot of world building, and you're throwing me 15 gazillion names, all of which are ones that don't exist in my culture, and therefore they're going to be a little harder for me to remember. If there's too much of that, that can be a challenge. And you've got to find that balance, I think, as a fantasy writer or science fiction writer. If your science fiction world is one where you have alien races or things like that, where you have cultures that are not going to be familiar, throwing out too many names of people or places or whatever, it goes back to that rule: is this really important? Do I need to know this right now? Do I need to know that the Cathorthian mountains, extend for so far to the Zornian Sea? Do I need to know that, like, as a reader? Probably not.
I'm going
And
to
it,
admit to being guilty to stuff like that. I have done that. I have a 7-book series, and there was like cast of thousands. Not all at the same time, but you met a lot of people as we went through, and you went through a lot of geography as we went through.
right.
But yeah, the
Well, I
series
think
Bible was quite thick by the time I was done.
Well, I think that's when you have to go to the one new thing at a time principle. So it's not to say you can't have a bunch of new things. You just don't introduce them all at the same time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's the
Right.
key.
Absolutely.
So my daughter was, oh gosh, 13 maybe when I started writing my high fantasy series. And she was also kind of my beta reader, just because she was very interested in the world. So she was kind of one of my first beta readers. And she suggested to put a little appendix at the end of the book, with the main characters, the pronunciation of their names, and
that just recently at work.
yeah,
well.
and the deities in that universe, but then also, who did you meet in this book that wasn't in the other books? So she suggested that I do that. So now I have like 3 pages maybe at the end of each of the books that's like new characters that you didn't know before, and also a reminder of pronunciations of names, because when you're talking about world building, sometimes their names aren't going to be Jennifer and Jason. They're not all Gen X kids. So
that just brings to mind, for lack of a better example, Star Wars. In the first one that came out, what we now know as Episode 4, just for an interest. I don't know if this is an interesting example of that, but there are only a few main characters that are mentioned. You don't talk about the guys in the bar, in the cantina. You talk about Luke and Leia and Han, for the most part, maybe Vader. For a reason to not overwhelm people.
That's true of the worlds too.
Or
I mean,
whatever,
you know about Tatooine, and you know about the Death Star.
Yeah. There's not a lot of environments. Yes.
Yeah, you don't really know. You know about Alderaan when it blows up. Sorry,
Right.
spoiler alert if you're 45 years too late.
But almost exactly 50 years.
Yeah, but if that, I mean, there are all these different worlds in that universe, but they only introduce one at a time. And I think that goes to, you can have a very rich universe with lots and lots of detail, but as a writer, you have to remember that you've got them all straight in your head, but this is someone who is foreign to your world. Think of them
as not
exactly. think of them as not speaking the language, right? So if you vomit too many names of at them at the same time, that's something that when I edit high fantasy, I run into a lot, and I have to, you know, I hate to say this. This sounds terrible, but more often than not, the authors choose to ignore that suggestion from me as an editor. When I tell them, this is too many names at once, this is too much stuff that they don't need to know right now. More often than not, they're so in love with their world that they will ignore that comment. And that's okay. That's their right. It's their book. But
exactly. I've had that myself.
From a reader experience perspective, that's just something that, as a writer, I try to be very aware of.
I was told years ago there was like a comedy, a comedy comic book, and it was The League of Superfluous Heroes. And there was like 600 of them. And they were having their meeting, but the meeting had to start with a roll call. So for like 5 issues, it was name, and the series ended when the person running the meeting lost his place and had to start over, and then they killed him.
Yeah. Well, see, in that case, I think it was the point, and I appreciate it from a humorous perspective. It's like the ultimate troll.
And I just think that was funny because it was just the name, and that's all it was.
And Betsy, you're right. Difficult names, especially when you're dealing with, fantasy worlds or science fiction worlds. Those can be very challenging. And again, I go back to my daughter telling me, you need to put a pronunciation guide at the end of your book. And that was incredibly good advice by her. Way to go, Ginny Bell. So
awesome. And then, there's that thing also where some authors, they don't want to do that. They'd rather put explanations of how things are pronounced within the narration itself or dialogue, things of that nature. I saw that in the what's it called again? In the Dark is Rising series.
Oh God, I love those books so
That's
much.
A fantastic
Susan Cooper. Oh my God.
Fantastic, underrated series.
100%.
100%. And it needs a movie. It needs a real movie.
So good.
Well done movie. I kept
thinking to myself,
of that atrocity.
Is there a movie of this? Is there a movie of this? And I looked up. No,
there is not.
Brilliant. All right. Well, guess what my next screenplay job is going to be. No, seriously, yeah, I agree with you 100%. But I think also
so that's a choice, and people I've seen both. I've seen one or the other, and I've seen both.
But you can make that work if it's part of the narrative arc. So if it's a way of introducing a character and building characterization, I think you can have, an unusual name be a point of discussion, just as a point of. So Betsy and I just finished writing book 4 of our paranormal thriller series, and we have a new character who's come into the book to replace an old character who is, let's just say, disappeared under inauspicious circumstances at the end of the prior book. And the new character that comes in is a young man named Sejun Park. And Sejun Park is a very, very famous Korean actor. Like we're talking like Ryan Reynolds famous in Korea. So every time he's introduced in the story, he's going to make a joke about no relation to the actor, or no, not like the actor, or yes, there's always going to be a joke about it, in connection with that. But I think as a writer, you have to be aware of are you going to play with that, or do you need to parse it down. So like in Susan Cooper's case, she chose to like lean into it, make it a point of discussion, for her reader, as opposed to either simplifying the name or just providing the description of how to say it at the end in an appendix.
Mm-hmm. So that's a huge subject in itself for science fiction and things. Authors.
Chapter cliffhangers, yes or no for immersion?
Oh, chapter cliffhangers.
Depends on if I'm writing for serialization or not.
Right.
Yes.
Because I've written, just writing a novel, and then I've written for serialization. And chapter cliffhangers are expected for serialization.
Sure.
But, not necessarily for your average novel. So depends on what I'm writing.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. What about you, Heather?
That is fair. When I was working very hard on my novel, I had read the suggestion of still playing hair with my face. The suggestion of writing your chapters like a short story with a beginning, middle, and end. And so in a way, they're almost cliffhangery
Mm-hmm.
and very series-like. And that is just what happened. And I've gotten some positive feedback about it. But I don't know. I kind of like it, but sometimes if it's a little too cliche, it'll pull me out of reading.
Yeah.
In either in serial writing or just as in novels themselves.
I think you need a mix. I think it's good to have like a cliffhanger to get them to turn that next page. But if you did it all the time, I think it's almost like
yeah, I know.
It's almost like manipulation of your audience in some ways.
Yeah, right.
Of course, all writing is. Let's be honest.
Be publishing on, I don't know, what's it called? Archive of Our Own or something, or in serial form.
I did my serialization on Patreon.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
I'll have to pick your brain about that later.
I thought about
sure.
using Ream at one point, and then something, I don't remember exactly, but something happened with it.
I used to do that on Kindle Vella, but now that's gone.
Yeah, I did it on Kindle Vella too. I have friends who do very well with that on Royal Road.
Oh yeah,
I was started to say that. I've heard of Royal Road as well.
That's very big. For
there was a
serious
RPG. Trend for a good while.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to show this real quick.
Yes, Betsy, we know you do manipulate your readers.
Yeah,
and I am also guilty as charged.
Isn't, in a way, that's our job?
Yeah, it's like the director of a movie, right? It's all, but it's for a good cause.
It's like, come here, I'm going to make you share my mass hallucinations.
There you go.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
Feelings.
Well, I know we all could really, again, talk about this for a long time, forever, if we wanted. However, we have been talking for about 45 minutes. Do you have anything else that you'd like to say about this, about immersion, or anything related to it? Of course, a lot of things related to it, but especially in terms of, say, things as big as world building and as small as dialogue.
I think for me, my takeaway, if I had to bottom line it, is that Your first draft you write for yourself. Your editing you write for your readers. And so when you do that kind of just, putting it all out, because you can't edit what you haven't written, but when you put it all out there, that's for you. But when you go through the editing process, because you should always self-edit before you send it to an editor just to maximize your dollars. But when you do that self-edit, take a week in between or a few days in between before you look at it again, so you have a fresh brain, and look at it as a reader, and
Yes.
and be critical of, is what I'm doing here going to bring my reader in or take my reader out? And that's a very difficult skill, and it's one that I think as a writer, it's our, I hate to say this word, but I really do feel this way. I think it's our duty to learn the craft so that we are making the best experiences for the people who see our words on the page. And so if our goal is reader immersion, we have to learn to see our own work with a critical eye and be prepared to kill our darlings if necessary for the good of the project.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Agreed.
I
Completely agree.
I have an art print somewhere around here that says the purpose of a first draft is to exist. And it's very much like doing pottery on a wheel, because you just take all that big, huge lump of rough clay and you throw it at the wheel. And then you shape it. And sometimes you have to take some of that clay away.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're done shaping it, it doesn't look anything like it did when it started. But it's still the same matrix, as it were. So yeah, I will throw all the words at the page and see if they stick. And then I will hone it down into something that, is an emotionally satisfying read.
Yeah, I think that's
Yes.
that's good. What about you, Heather? What's your final takeaway?
Excuse me. I think that yes, emotion, hook me, draw me in, especially with emotion, to my mind, and make me care about this character. Because if the reader doesn't care about him, and want to make sure that they're okay,
Preach.
then it's just not going to work out. Lack of a better way of saying that at the moment.
And I know I've hit peak immersion when I'm writing, when I start hearing the character's distinct voice. When I can determine which character is actually saying the line from what I'm hearing, and maybe this is an autistic thing, I don't know, but if I can hear the character's voice, I know I've nailed that character.
I think you're right. I've had that experience.
Absolutely. But my characters sometimes will wake me up in the morning because they would like to be written now. Thank you very much. So
I had a short story that I wrote that I thought I was done. And I closed my laptop, I went to bed, and didn't sleep a wink that night because I had 3 characters in that story yelling at me all night going, "That's not how it was supposed to end." So I got up the next morning, opened the laptop, rewrote the ending, realized they were right, and I sent it in, and I had an acceptance less than 12 hours later.
always trust the characters.
Always trust the characters. They are much closer to the story than you are.
Yes. I had a similar thing happen recently.
I think that's a very profound wrap-up point. I like it. Well done, Liz.
Absolutely. So yes, to wrap up, let's go ahead and just sort of do a quick outro / bio / what's happening in your world at the moment?
All right. Well, I
You just
am.
do.
Yeah, well, I'm in the middle of. I just finished a first draft, literally yesterday. Finished a first draft of the series that I write with Betsy, which is the paranormal thriller Manifest Destiny series. And we finished the first draft of book 4 yesterday. It is called The Hanged Man. Book 3, which is The Crimson Compass, set in the Mediterranean Sea on a yacht, by the way, if you're in that sort of space. Paranormal thriller. So that's our most recent project. And I'm also in the middle of writing book 5 of my high fantasy series, Iron Shield Shadow. The Book of Chaos will be out hopefully by Necronomicon. That's my hope. That's my goal. We'll see.
And let's see. My most recent release was The Coral Throne, which is the second book in the Coral Throne theory. It's Coral Throne duology. That came out in February. I am currently working on book 4 of my Tales from the Arena series, which is erotic science fiction. And I'm working on the second novella in my Coventry series, which I kind of wrote on a bet. The first one was written because my editor dared me.
Don't tempt me with a good time.
Oh my God. He told me he wanted to do a holiday-themed paranormal novella series. And I went, well, Have Yourself a Merry Little Witchmas is right there. And I swear to God, I heard him pause in email. And then go, what would it take for me to get you to write that?
That's fantastic.
So now they want more in that universe. So I'm working on the next one.
When I saw that title on your website, I was like, okay.
That was so much fun to write. And I'd never written a rom-com before. I'd never written a cozy before. It was so much fun to write. These characters were just a ball. They were a lot of fun. So now I'm working with them again. And this Saturday, I will be at the Oviedo Mall's Great Geek Gathering.
Ooh, awesome.
From 11 to 5.
What fun. Oh, I have 2 things in June. I forgot to mention. June 20th, I'll be at the Read It Write It Festival in Wellington. And I will be in Wesley Chapel at the Signed Edition, which will be at the Hyatt Regency near the Outlet Mall in Wesley Chapel on
What state
June
are you
27th.
in? Because I just realized didn't say
Florida.
I'm in Florida. You're in Florida?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're all Florida.
Okay, good. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know where you are.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like, oh, the Oviedo Mall. Like everybody knows.
I knew where it
in
was.
Central Florida. Okay.
Well, in Central Florida. Jen and I are in the Tampa Bay area.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So she's like north of Tampa. Sort of.
Yeah. I'm like in.
You're on the left side of the state.
I'm Tampa's hat. I'm Tampa's hat. Is what I am. If it were a beret.
Accurate. I'm just to the side, literally, of Tampa. I'm literally on near the county line. County line is like less than 3 miles away from me.
But which county?
In Pinellas County.
Okay, I was like, because I'm on county line in Pasco, so
there's a lot of counties out here.
Yeah. Represent.
Yeah. We're all in the swamp. We're all in the swamp. So
we're all in.
Yep.
But there are certain things that you guys have just done very recently this month. Jen, you just did the Tarpon Springs Book Festival, and I mentioned that 2 weeks ago in my other thing. I unfortunately wasn't able to make it, and boy, I've been living vicariously through your posts as well as some other people's posts, and a friend of mine who was there, other friends who were there, I should say. So yeah.
It was amazing. It was amazing. There were so many of my author friends there, which is so cool. I got to see Steve Altier, who I run into all the time at everything. Evan Bond, Gabrielle Snyder. Gosh, there were several of them, and I got to meet Tara Lush, who I've been reading her books obsessively for a couple of years now, and so I don't think I would say stalking is too strong a word. I've literally no, I've wanted to meet her for a long time, not just because I love her books, because what's cooler than meeting somebody who you already love their books? That's like the ultimate fangirl moment. But she just also seemed like a really interesting person. And in fact, she's absolutely lovely. So I was thrilled to get to meet her live and in person.
Nice
So
when that happens.
absolutely.
It's like you
It
love
is,
somebody's
it
books
is.
and then they're an honestly nice person.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I was trying to remember if I met Tamara Lush. Maybe I can't remember. I want to say that I met her at Orlando Reads Books in 23. But I met so many folks there that were really, really cool and everything. So, and then really quick, Liz, maybe just sum up real quick your experience at, now it's escaping me. The big event you did in Orlando.
ICFA.
Was that late March?
That was in mid-March.
Okay, late March.
It's the International Conference for the Fantastic and the
Thank you.
Arts, where you take the best parts of a science fiction convention and the best parts of an academic conference and you put them together. So, and it is fantastic because you have papers presented on different aspects of fandom and different elements of folklore and visual media and video games and all of it, analyzing and studying it, and that's the academic side. On the creative side, there are readings and discussions, and it's just absolutely brilliant. And I get to hang out with grandmasters and Hugo Award winners and Nebula Award winners and try not to fangirl too badly.
Boy, I know I would.
Oh my. I was on a panel with Rick Wilbur, Jeffrey Landis, Ray Naylor, and I've forgotten the fourth person. And I feel like this big, but and this is a reading, so we're all reading something, and sitting right in front is Joe Haldeman.
Your brain must have just melted.
Oh my God, it was lovely. It was wonderful. They are so everybody is just so wonderful and supportive and open and friendly, and it's like coming home every year. It's 4 days of being with people who are of like mind and who just want to share what they love. And it's wonderful.
And do a deep dive, basically.
And do a deep dive into it. And it runs from Wednesday to Saturday. And there's social time built into it. There's an author guest of honor and an academic guest of honor. And this year there were 2 author guests of honor. It was Anne Leckie and Ted Chiang. And I forget who the academic guest of honor. Oh, Cheryl Vint, I think, was the academic guest of honor.
I think I saw that because when I was poking around the website.
But next year, the author guest of honor is going to be Ursula Vernon. And I'm just like, because I have been a huge fan of Ursula since she was doing Digger, which is probably more years ago. Vernon. She writes as T. Kingfisher now.
Oh, okay.
But she is a Hugo Award-winning artist. She's a Hugo Award-winning author. She is an all-around amazing person. And I have been talking to her online for probably about 20 years now.
Welcome to
So
my
getting to
Stalkerville.
meet
You
her
just
in
took it to the
person
next
would be
level.
fantastic.
I've
But
often felt
she's a good one for immersion, because you could just fall into her books, and she's written it all. She's written children's books. She's
I
written
know
horror.
that name. Sure.
She's written horror. She's written romance. She's written comics. She has coming out later this year a novel tie-in for Baldur's Gate. She's writing the Asturian novel.
Neat.
So they haven't announced the
I'm not a
theme
gamer,
yet,
but I know
she's
of
going to
that
be our
game.
guest. She's going to be our author guest. And it's just it is a
cool.
fantastic conference.
It sounds so interesting. Oh, wait a minute. Somebody just popped into the chat. Hello, Andy. Thank you for swinging by. We're trying to make ourselves wrap up. But we are not, Liz, going to talk as long as we did last time.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how long we talked.
I think
that was crazy.
Time we talked for 2.5 hours, so somebody needs to stop us now.
That's exactly what my plan is. So I'm gonna try.
Go ahead, wrap it up. We dare you.
Let's don't get distracted. Okay.
I will stop talking. I'll be good.
I will try to as well. So you guys kind of did your little outro. I myself, I am still editing the nonfiction book that I was hoping to have published, but I've had to rework a few things. This is my nonfiction book that I mentioned to you guys last year. It is called the Fairy Glossary and Guide for Writers. It's a very basic glossary of British fairy or fairies. This is folklore and not created. So we're talking older than, say, the early 1800s. This is folklore, and this is as far back as you can go, probably, because that's also can include things like gods and goddesses, and also real people. Anyway, so I am going to be hopefully wrapping up the editing by if not the end of this month, next month. And I was hoping to, we will see, but I was hoping to publish in June, by the end of the quarter. We will see how it goes. This is very short. I've mentioned this before, but it is in no way comprehensive. It's just a sampling, but what I have been working on primarily is the guide for writers part. So it has to do with appropriation and a bunch of topics that are pertinent to using some of these let's just say sorry, the word went out of my head. Possibly problematic. There we go. Types of fairies. And there's also a very basic pronunciation guide, as well as there's a list of sources at the end. But anyway, so I'm hoping to get that published again before Necronomicon. So there's that, and I will be. I have had the intention of, yes, working on my novel, and hopefully getting that out maybe by the end of the year. We'll see. So we'll see. So yes, lots of editing happening. But primarily, I'm an editor. I'm a freelance line editor, copy editor, and sensitivity reader. And all the links will be down below. I will make sure everybody's links are down below in the description as soon as possible. And also, thank you so much for watching live or on the replay. And and I hope everyone has a pleasant evening. We'll be back. I will be back in 2 weeks. And yes, in 2 weeks. I'm just making sure in my head when the next date is. Looking forward to talking with some fabulous folks. Looks like Mr. Perry Brown's guys. All right. Well, I will see everybody later. And thank you again so much for watching. Bye. Bye.